Mm.
Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants. I'm Nick Smith. Usually Ryan Morris is here with me, but he is off in meetings. And so we've got the incredible Alyssa Ann all the way from Australia and Debbie Roth. Good morning. It's 3:30 in the morning in Australia. That's how committed Alyssa is to this whole program. So thank you for being on with us. Our guest today, Debbie Roth. I know from her forgiveness coaching course that I went through, I was introduced to you by Stephen McGee. And he thought it would be super helpful for me to go through this program with you. I was going through my divorce. It was absolutely incredible what you put together. And I know you have a program coming up, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. But as far as forgiveness work goes, there's nobody better than Debbie Roth when it comes to forgiveness. And so this is going to be an episode where we're going to dive into your story. We're going to look at some of your views and teachings and really just go down the rabbit hole with this. So I just want to honor you and thank you for being on the show with us.
You got it. It's truly a blessing to be here. And whoever is listening to this, just know that the grace of forgiveness can open you to possibilities beyond that which you may even be able to imagine right now. It's really transformational. So good to be here with everybody.
Well, we're going to share. So as comments come up, we might share those and we might talk about them just depending on what they are. If they serve, if they don't, we'll move on. Okay. But just wanted to kind of go back in your history a little bit. What was life like growing up for you?
Well, really, my childhood is what planted the seeds for the work that I'm doing now. And life was sucky, honestly, in a very, very technical, coachy kind of way. It sucked.
I think that's the official language for it.
Well, that's how I roll.
It reminds me of Elf. On Elf, where he's putting the mail up in the chute. He's all sucky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I lived with my mom and dad split up when I was really young. And I lived in New York with my grandmother, my mom, my brother, and me. And my mom was mentally ill. So she went in and out of hospitals. And just watching like one of the mainstays, someone who's supposed to be, which is an expectation in some ways, like a stable, nurturing source of love, lose it regularly and need to go into an institution. It was really hard for me. And so I really made a decision at that time that I never wanted to be like her. And so I started working hard. I was Miss Straight A student. I'm really smart. I was the student government president. Like everyone knew me. I just saw my high school yearbook, and I was mentioned in 12 different places in the yearbook. And now some of that was just authentic connection and enthusiasm, and some of that was this deep inner push to not be what my mom was. And it was like I was looking for love and for validation. And really inside of me, I didn't think that I was lovable. And that's my cat. So sorry.
Yeah. No, you did.
Some live. You're gonna get some. So
I love it. It's a day of animals. Our show this morning, there was a dog on there, and then my dog started barking, and now your cat's going. So it's a day for animals. Like, we're good.
Right, exactly. And so pretty quickly, I had a great group of friends, which is very cool. And my cat loves me. He's so excited. I think he wants to come on. Malachi, you had to let mama talk. Okay. So,
I love it.
so underneath, so it's interesting. It was like on the one hand, like here I am, great group of friends, really smart, capable, student government president, went to Harvard, like all of these things. And inside, yeah, I know. And just really, had a great career in politics. And inside it was like I was yearning. I was like, oh my God, like I don't feel lovable. I turned to food and alcohol to soothe myself, developed a number of eating disorders, even had a happy marriage. So it was like this real interesting duo. So I'm going to pause there for a minute. That's really what it was like growing up for me.
Just to anchor that in, though, the thought that you had all of these accomplishments and still felt empty on the inside in a way. And so, I would imagine there's a lot of viewers that when they hear this, they feel similar. Yeah. Like I have all the things. I have the certificates. I have my master's degree, and it's like, great. Yeah, it's great. It's on a wall. But it's still empty. It doesn't fill that void that's going on in there. And so,
and one other thing I'd say, well, I love what you shared, Nick, and why not bring this stuff out in the open, because everyone has their stuff, and rather than push it down or pretend to be someone that we're not, it's like, to me, a true giant really just is authentic with what's going on, because what happened in my childhood ended up being the greatest blessing in my life to help me discover the strength of who I am. Yeah. And I may not have ever gone for that if I hadn't grown up the way that I did. So I am truly grateful. And God bless Carol S. Roth, wherever she is in heaven.
Amazing. So you went from stating, I will never be like my mom, to God bless Carol S. Roth.
That's right. That's forgiveness.
Can you go into that a little bit?
You got it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where things really shifted for me is, well, I just went, talk about going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh my God. I was at what?
We have a plan for the show, but I kind of want to throw that out. I really think we need to just dive right into that rabbit hole. So,
well, and as I'm talking, this is the coach in me coming out. As I'm talking, like for listeners, what my encouragement is if you hear something in my story that relates for you, it's like, go into it. It's like, let yourself really have the experience of being with yourself authentically and honestly. Because, and Nick, I know you know this because we've worked on this. It's like when you slow down to be with yourself, to just see what's in front of you and to practice the steps of forgiveness, it changes the way you relate to yourself and really opens up just a channel of love. Yeah, like I love myself, and I would never have said that when I was a kid.
It speaks to speaking to that, what you just said, is it opens you up. When you can relate to yourself, you can finally relate to others.
Yes. Yes. And yes, Nick, totally. You must be the author of a very cool book.
I went through a very cool book. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted, and then I'll go into like what shifted for me, is one thing I want to tease out in what you said is like, when you relate to yourself, you could relate to others. And when you think about that, it's like when something that someone does, when someone pisses you off, or you're upset about something someone else does, or you're not at peace inside. That's right, Diana. Give yourself space to be and to heal, sister. That's exactly it. When someone pisses you off, Nicole, okay, I'll stop.
No, I love it. Alyssa, yeah. We love this, right? Like it's
when you're upset by something, it's like really, it's because somewhere inside you're not at peace with yourself in regards to what it is. So it was like, in some ways, I needed to make peace. Oh, this might make me cry a little. With
Please
the
do.
mom, with the mom and my mom inside of me, like the things that my mom reflected about me that I didn't want to look at. And so what happened is I really hit the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. Like I was just, engaging in bulimia all the time. I was drinking. I had an amazing husband who really was an anchor point of love for me. And he suggested that I go to a personal growth seminar that was all about like opening to who you are and about taking responsibility for your life, like not playing the victim, that what happens outside is not the cause of what goes on inside. And that when I make that shift from standing in ownership for my reactions, for my choices, for how I choose to show up in my life, it's like it changes everything. It changes everything. And once I was able to say, I will no longer play the victim to my outer circumstances, I'm willing to choose into a new story about myself and to see through the eyes of my heart. That was life transformational. And that's when I learned about the practice of self-forgiveness.
So did you have a clear path when you stepped out into this of what it would look like on the other side? Because I'm imagining your life was on the surface perfect,
Yeah.
right? You went to Harvard, you had a political career, you have a perfect marriage. Like from the outside, everybody's saying, wow, Debbie's got it all figured out. And on the inside, you're not.
No.
And you start having this transformation of forgiveness work, you get introduced to it. And there's a journey there that I want to go into is there probably, I'm going to guess there wasn't a clear path, that it just evolved as you stepped. Is that correct?
Yeah, do you know what really it was? It was like my own healing, like my own journey of healing. Like as I learned how to take care of myself, to rather than like, I'm gonna be honest, like throw up food, to use it to like nurture this amazing person and soul of who I am. Like as I learned how to do that, it was like it led me to my next step then in how can I share this? Like, how can I serve? How can I be of support? So I ended up dropping my political, as I healed. I went to a university called the University of Santa Monica, and I have a master's in spiritual psychology from there. And that's where I learned the practices and principles of self-forgiveness. And in the group, which we'll talk about at the end that I'm offering, it's like there are 21 really awesome, simple exercises to open to forgiveness and what it can do. So what I did in that time is I slowed down with the judgments that I was holding and the beliefs that I had bought into about myself and about my life, because my beliefs were shaping my reality, right? And I slowed down with all of that. I gave loving to myself and I let go. I forgave myself for the judgments I had placed against myself, against my mom. I let go of the limiting slowing down.
Yeah.
It makes, and in one thing, Nick, and is that like I would make I would have these wonderful awarenesses, and then it was like there was a whole nother level to it. So slowing down with that too, and knowing that it's like you're never going back into the rabbit hole, really. That when you start the work, when I started the work of self-forgiveness, it just showed me the next thing, that next gem to heal.
Yeah. Alyssa, what comes up there for you?
Oh, I love all this. I've just taken so many notes. I'm on Evernote.
She's just back here.
I'm madly just writing it all down. Yeah, Nick, I need one of those. I really think that everybody who's going to be listening to this is going to be able to relate to this, Debbie. I think there's, so much gold in what you just said, and not living from those beliefs. I think that's one of the biggest things. And getting yourself out of victimhood and actually being able to realise that you're lovable
That's right.
Yeah.
And it really, there's something about the willingness to take a stand for that.
Oh,
It's,
definitely. Yeah.
right?
And taking responsibility. Taking responsibility, that's what it comes down to, I think, doesn't it?
It really is. And it's such an interesting dance, Alyssa Ann. You guys might see my cat.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm gonna actually bring up his name in a second. To be willing to take a stand for you, and it's a dance because it's like taking responsibility and saying, I'm not willing to buy into this story, and giving love and compassion to all those parts that did.
Yes.
All those, and that dance is beautiful. My cat's name is Malachi, and he's actually he was a prophet in the Bible, and his name means my angel, and it's like, and forgive, right?
Yeah.
And that's what this work is. It's like how can you be your own angel, and all those parts inside of you that did the best they could with what they knew. It's like, how do you bow down and say, thank you for everything that you are now showing to me about the wisdom that is inside of me. And living from that place is a totally different adventure. It's
Okay,
amazing.
I've got to go into your languaging of it, because your languaging of forgiveness is so different from what I've experienced in the past. I was used to saying, I forgive so-and-so for this thing, right? And you have a way of saying it, and there's purpose in that. It's not by accident that you use the languaging that you do around this. Can you talk about that a little bit?
For sure. So now, firstly, there's nothing wrong. Of course, there's nothing wrong because I'm a forgiveness coach, right?
Yeah,
there's
right.
nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying I forgive myself, or I forgive Alyssa Ann, or I forgive my mother or my father. It's like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like inherent in that is that you did something wrong, and I'm going to forgive you for that. So what I'm offering here, and this is not mine, this is from the University of Santa Monica where I studied. I'm so grateful for it. I'm just bringing it out. I'm like, okay, let's go this everywhere. For me, it was the most transformational tool in my healing, is to say, what if there were no right and wrong? What if there are just things, and everything that comes your way is an opportunity for awakening and expanding into the love of who you are? So the self-forgiveness that I do is a simple phrase. I forgive myself for judging myself, or I forgive myself for judging others. So the key is, I'm going to slow down, I forgive myself for judging. So I want to unpack that a little bit. Firstly, how is that landing for you because there's a couple more things I want to say, and I want to pause to see how that's landing.
For me, I've been through your course, so it lands perfectly. I would ask that to Alyssa. How is that landing for you?
Oh, that's just spot on. I actually wrote something just 2 days ago on not labeling and not having attachment to things, and saying exactly that. What if we just stopped saying things were right or wrong, and what if we just always looked for the learning opportunity in it?
Bingo.
And had that faith in the universe and trust that everything was always working out for us.
And see, the faith and trust often comes with taking the small action to living into it. Like, I forgive myself for judging. It's like each time you say it, it's an act of faith that then becomes direct experience. And direct experience is what you can stand on. So I feel like I want to pay you, like I'm going to pay you a $20 because when I was going to unpack it, one of the things I was going to say is like, what's underneath this, I forgive myself for judging, is like, what if there were no right and wrong, and all there is learning? And that if the upset that you have, if that's not due to something else outside of you, if it's really inside, then the choice to forgive is always inside. And it's not about the behavior itself or the person. It's about forgiving yourself for the judgment that you placed, where you separated yourself from seeing through the eyes of learning and growth. So as an example, let's use an example. So if I'm judging myself as unworthy of love, and I've never done that. However, if I had ever in my life judged myself as unworthy for love, what I might say is, I forgive myself for judging myself as unworthy of love. And I'll say it again, and taking a breath. Or if I'm judging my mom, I might say, I forgive myself for judging my mom as wrong because of the way she lived her life. Whew, that just gave me a nice little extra dose of healing. So thank you.
Yeah. I want to dive deeper on this because it's one thing to say this. You come in and we all have knowledge of things and we can speak things. I know these things, but there's the wisdom that comes from actually putting it into practice. And there's a part of your story that I don't think people know yet. And if you're comfortable sharing this, are you okay going into it?
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Will you share your experience and what you're working through?
Yes. And before I do, I have one other thing to say that you brought up for me, Nick, and that is, and Alyssa Ann, and that is that a part of putting it into practice can be really simple. And that is, it's like you could dig for judgments, right? It's like, okay, what am I judging? And I'm going to write these down. I'm going to practice self-forgiveness now, and you can do that for sure. And it's like, you don't necessarily need to, because the way that one way you could practice this is, if you notice that you're upset about something, that means your forgiveness school is in session. So if you're upset, all that's saying is something happened on the outside to trigger that place inside of you where you're holding a judgment. So then you can pause, slow down, and really dive into that. It's really, really neat. My cat said, yep, that's what she does.
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
I got you.
So that's a great way to practice. And so what Nick was alluding to is, so I had healed in regards to my eating disorder, and I gave up alcohol. Like, I really just turned my life around. I had I moved from New York to California. I changed my whole life, and I really dove in to this healing work and how can I share it with other people. And so I was practicing as a coach and just starting to offer forgiveness workshops, like just starting when my mom was murdered. And it was like the universe saying to me, are you really, really willing to walk your talk of forgiveness? Are you really willing to say that there is no right and wrong regardless? I'm still working through it. I don't have it all figured out. I'll tell you one thing, though, is that when that occurred, it was like it opened my heart to a deeper commitment to take a stand for love, because it's what my mom would have done. Hugs right back to you, Nicole. And that's where I'll share some of you may have seen a video, I think Nick posted it here, on the willingness to forgive. So a part of this, it's like great to practice the steps of forgiveness, right? Like, I forgive myself for judging, and okay, here I go, and I'm letting it go, and I'm going to be more neutral. And sometimes it's like it's not a mental thing. It's like forgiveness is a gift of the heart. And it's like you don't need to know how. Like you can, yes, you can practice these steps and the form and really ultimately, at least in my experience, is that at some point you let go and say, I'm just willing to forgive and let love show you the way. And that's how I'm walking this with my mom.
The letting the love show the way can apply to so many things. You know, it might not be as severe as what occurred in your experience, but it's trusting. That's part of the trusting is just really feeling the way. We had Todd Clyde post yesterday in the tribe about the nail that he created and doing blacksmithing and feeling the metal and where it needs to go. And that's kind of the idea of the pathway, is that we work that metal, we work our dream, we work our creation. And in a lot of cases, we let love kind of guide the way. We feel the emotion of it, the movement of it, you know, and so it applies to so many things here. You know, you might not have the trauma that Debbie went through.
That's right. And it doesn't matter, because each one of us has had our own issue. And so to let love lead you through the issue into awakening is amazing. And you can also use love, as Nick was saying, it's like to expand more into the grace of who you are. It's like forgiveness is one of the most amazing tools I know to support you in bringing forward the experiences that you want in your life. Because as you take, and this is what the 21 Days group is based on, it's like as you're taking action to create what you want, those old stories are going to come up. Like, of course they are, because otherwise you'd already have created what you want. And so rather than ignore them or pretend like they're not there, it's like slowing down and accepting, right, Nick? Like just slowing down and accepting what's going on and saying, how can I use this to help me lift and co-create what's truly on purpose for me? That is a game changer. Acceptance is one of the very first steps that I work with clients on the practice of self-forgiveness. And Nick, could you share a little bit about how the work we did together impacted you and actually the creation of all of this? Because I think people will really relate to that.
So in your course, when I went through that, and I don't know if people will be able to see this, but this was one of the exercises that we did. And it was to really diagram what we're creating at the center of it all. And then all of the things that we would need, like the resources that would need to be there, the experience of it, the accepting what is was one of the biggest things, because I was in a space where I was coming through the divorce, coming through the darkness there. Your course was timely for me. And so it helped me to let go of my judgments about what was occurring in that divorce. It helped me to let go of the judgments I had about my ex-wife. Yeah. It helped me to let go, and it still worked today. Huh? It helped me to let go of the judgments I had about how things should go. You know, the League of Giants and the Tribe of Giants. And there was so much control in that it had to look a certain way. And if it didn't, I was a failure kind of energy. And so to be able to sit with it and just accept, it didn't mean I had to agree with it. And there's a big distinction there, is that accepting is it is what it is. And the more I got in,
you're not fighting against it. Or denying it or pretending like it's not there.
Yep. And you relax into it. Yeah. And when things come up in the league or they come up in the tribe and there's something to handle, it is what it is. And so being able to step back from the space of it being what it is and to really look at it and to love it the way that it is allows for it to shift, because my resistance to it was keeping it what it was.
Exactly. You know, Steve Chandler, some of you know Steve Chandler, he's an incredible coach and light being. Yeah. He said once in a course that I was in, He said, suffering equals pain times resistance. I'll say it again.
Say that again. Yeah.
I know, it's really beautiful. So simple. It's one of the things I love about the work that he does is how simple it is. It's suffering equals pain times resistance. So something occurs that maybe is, a challenge you're going through. And when you resist it, that's where the suffering comes in. And forgiveness brings kindness to that entire process and blesses it with the grace of living love.
Just allows it to be, right? It is what it is.
Exactly. And you know what else it does, and what I hear and what you're saying, Nick, is that what occurred with your ex-wife and in that relationship and in building the giants right around that, the League of Giants right around that time, it's like that whole thing was given to you as a gift to really stand in the giant within you.
Yeah.
And that it might allow you to see that as a blessing, as a true blessing of synchronicity in your own life.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't living into my life the way it is, right? It took that experience for me to wake up.
Yeah.
And we all have that waking up.
You can really let that come up. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Just a little coaching. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, there was so much resistance to the way I was living my life, and to have that come up, it shifted my perspective. I wasn't living into who I was capable of being, and the universe said, it's time to wake up. Just like the murder of your mom, that divorce was as impactful in my view of what I was experiencing in getting me to wake up, to walk the talk, right? And so from there was no looking back. It became my purpose. And I'll have multiple purposes through life, but that became one of them. And it allowed me to really step in fully, and it's still evolving through love. I'm feeling the pathway through love. I don't know the pathway for creating this, but I'm feeling it.
And see, that's it. And that's slowing down with the transformation of that creates an opening for your next step.
Man, I have so much love for you, for what you taught. Not to chase this away. It just, this is the power of what you do.
That's right. It's the power of awakening unto love. And what you're feeling is the love of your own heart.
Yeah.
And that's what's available through the practice of self-forgiveness and really staying at it. I acknowledge you for your willingness and your courage and your honesty. It's truly inspirational to me.
I want people to experience what it's like to work with you. And this is an experience of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, Alyssa, as you're sitting here, what's coming up for you? I know you're just soaking it in, but I'm curious about what's coming up for you as you experience this.
And are you glad that you got up at 3:30 in the morning to do this?
Oh, I'm absolutely glad I got up for this. Yeah, I think there's some really strong messages in this for me. I think, I think like both of you, it took that profound moment to pivot and change and start looking for things, to do things a different way. And mine was I was really grappling with suicide, really. And I was my marriage had just ended, and I was in a job that I just felt broken. It was probably the best way to describe it. Every day I was just unbroken. But yeah, I had a choice because I have 3 children. So I had a choice to leave all that behind. So I did, but yeah, I've still got a lot of forgiveness to do, I think.
Well, I really hear that. I really hear that. And what I hear inside of what you're saying, and the fact that you got up as early as you did, and you're showing up in all these ways, is your willingness to choose life. To like really choose in. And Alyssa Ann, that will serve you so well as you delve into this path of forgiveness.
Yes.
Because every step that you take to forgive is a choice to live fully in your heart. And I see you doing it.
Yes. Yeah, well, I know in the first 2 years after I left the police force, I was raging. I was just, I was in that victim mentality, and I was in that, how dare you do that to me, but now I have been able to shift it and look for the gold in it and look for all the learnings in it. But yeah, saying that, I still think there's a lot of forgiveness.
Well, and you're bringing up to me, Alyssa, and you're bringing up an important point, and that is, it's like, don't bypass what's going on inside. And that's not to say stay stuck in it, right? Like, because it's easy to be like, I'm just gonna. So it's not that. It's just allow it to be and to not push your process. Like, Nick, how many times did I tell you to slow down?
Yeah. Oh. You're still saying it.
I like slow down.
Even before the call, let's slow down. And we did a meditation, and it was beautiful.
And so Alyssa Ann is like allowing, like knowing that you have the strength in you to handle whatever is going on inside of you.
Yes.
And that, and that there's a wisdom to love, like that it will bring forward that very next thing, like nugget for you to work on. My guess is that you have something in mind even now. And it's like, use that, trust that wisdom, have that faith that you spoke about, and say, okay, this is my next step to work on. And I'm going to dive in with that, knowing that I have what it takes and the wisdom inside of me is going to guide me.
What I love about what you do, Debbie, is that there are no easy answers. You can't respond to Debbie Roth with a sure or a yeah. It's not ever going to happen. I love how you get people to expound, and you pick out and pull out the words that they're using to help them really fully see how they're living their lives. Because there's so much unconsciousness that occurs when we go into our routines and the way that we just be, that we don't see it. And so your ability to pull out these gems from our own words and then have us expound on those allows for these emotions to come up. It allows for that judgment to come up. And that's where the work really begins. That's where you can start to accept it and forgive it.
And it really opens a door for freedom. I have a spiritual teacher that I work with. His name is John Roger. And he has a great quote. I have it behind me. I had facilitated an evening of forgiveness at this great peace labyrinth place in LA. And I'm just going to read a little part of it. So my mind go back. And it's self-forgiveness. Not only, it's like it opens the door, essentially. It's like the key. And he says it's the key. And he said it not only opens the door, it's the hinges on the door. It's the key to the door. And it's the little bell that rings and lets you know the door opened.
Amazing. Huh. Even slowing down. Hold on.
No.
Even slowing down with that. It could even be the door. It could even be the opening of it, the walking through it. It's all of it, right? It's everything. And I think in conversations, it's so easy to hurry to the next thing. That what you just shared, I mean, there was a moment of pause there, that slowing down with that just really opens up for more discovery internally. Exactly.
And there's an allowing in that, right? It's like, rather than a pushing. I mean, I spent my childhood pushing of like, let me get that next A+, right? Like my college application to Columbia, like, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a different way of being. And it's not saying don't do. It's just that how are you being as you do, and really allow, it's like really allow your natural wisdom to come up and to guide you every step of the way as you go.
That's, yeah, so many nuggets. I'm going to run out of room on here.
Oh my
It's going to be
goodness.
full of like all these nuggets. So how are you being as you do what you're doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's so important. The conversation this morning on the park bench, you could be doing creating coaching clients,
Yeah.
right? But the way you are being is keeping you from creating coaching clients.
Yeah.
And if you can shift who you are being while you're creating, then it totally transforms the whole experience.
It really does. And it also makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Remember,
Yeah.
suffering equals pain times resistance.
Yeah. Well, and so you think of the word passion, right? Passion means suffering. The etymology of that word means suffering, but the difference between suffering and passion is that you really enjoy the passion.
Well, what's interesting in what you're saying, I'm sorry, I'm sort of
I'm
you,
good.
is compassion is to be with someone's suffering, or to be with your own suffering. And that's one of the big blessings of doing forgiveness work, is like just to be with your own suffering. And when you're with it, you're not of it, because you are greater than all of your thoughts, all of your emotions, whatever you do out in this world. And to me, that's what I see you guys doing with your tribe of giants. I mean, I'm a part of it. You're really, though, holding an anchor point for that, is you're helping each one of us awaken into the experience of gianthood inside.
Yeah.
Greater than anything.
Which is already in there. And you spoke to that.
There.
You already have the strength within you. I'm going to pull it back up here, to handle everything that comes up inside of you. And it can only come up inside of you. So it's our experiences, our interpretations of events that either get in the way or allow us to expand.
Exactly.
But it's already there either way.
Exactly. And one of the things we do in this 21 days of forgiveness, it's actually like the capstone of it, because every day participants get a simple exercise to forgive. And toward the end, the exercises that we work on are exactly what you're talking about, are limiting beliefs, like really looking at those. It's like, what did you make a situation mean about you? And can you replace that limiting story with one that serves you better, with one that's based on loving, with one that comes from the words of wisdom inside of you, that helps you live into your strength rather than your limitation?
So let's pull up. So do they find that on your website, your program?
Yes, they do. Yeah. It's forgivingconnects.com. And then you'll see it's the backslash is actually just 21 days. So it's easy. Forgivingconnects.com /21 or / whatever the heck that is, 21 days. Or if you just go to the website, there's a little icon for 21 days of forgiveness. And it's going to be such a good group. Like, I mean, look at what we did here. I mean, in some ways, we just took a pause, right? To say, where are we right now? Like, how can we expand into more of what we truly want to be as we walk through this world? And that's really what this group is. It's like a short burst of expansion into the giant inside, using forgiveness as support every step of the way.
Yeah. I love this, because I'm sure people are already running over there. Which they should. The value that you create for what you're asking is so far beyond what you're the value is so far beyond what you're giving, right? You give so much to this too. Like when I remember going through your course, and I didn't want to jump off. I needed to because of work, but I didn't want to jump off. And you were going an hour, 2 hours deep with us in that call and really helping us to fully experience this so that we could anchor it in, because it's one thing to go and just get the information and move on.
Yes.
Right. But what you were doing is you were anchoring it in. You were putting it inside of me to where that became my language.
Right.
Like it was no longer this thing that I knew. It was this thing that I became. And so I could live from that space. And it's still a practice. It's still something that I practice daily.
Yes, absolutely. And what I hear you speaking to is the power of moving from information to direct knowing. And that is transformational. Like that's the game changer that's available to each one of us as we practice the tools of self-forgiveness, the other tools that Nick and Alyssa Ann bring forward, and Ryan in these Wake Up with Giants calls, and the way different people are posting their own techniques. It's like really bringing that from information to direct knowing through practicing on a regular basis and then just letting go and allowing.
Yeah. Wow. So that right there, the letting go and allowing. I'm going to go into a rabbit hole a little bit. We've only got 14 minutes left, so hopefully we can squeeze this all in.
We tired my cat out, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He's gone. He's somewhere upstairs.
Yeah, he's like, I don't need to be here. You're good. You're in good company. So the idea of letting go of the creation, the analogy that comes to mind for me is the analogy of childbirth, that the creation comes through you, but the creation is its own thing. And the tribe of giants has become its own thing. So if I were to look at my kids came through me. They were a creation that came through me, but they are not mine, if that makes sense. And so the moment I add they are mine to them, it restricts their growth and restricts their potential for becoming who they can become. My job at that point is to parent and guide, but let them ultimately decide how they'll become. And so with the tribe, it's the same idea. When I say this is mine, the tribe shrinks. When I say the tribe is the tribe's, then it can become what it needs to become. And my job at that point is to provide the nutrients that it needs to become what it's capable of becoming. And so that letting go is, the creation came through you. It did. And because of that, your name will be attached to that forever, but it is its own thing.
Yeah. When you said what you just said, what's present for you?
I don't know, because it just sounded really awesome to say.
Well, really slow down a minute, because that was a profound statement. It's like what's present inside.
What's present for me is that there's nothing to be concerned of how this will grow, right? That the moment I step into trying to control it is when I'm in my fear and operating from my fears. And that's when it restricts its growth. And so the more I can let go and trust that it will become what it needs to become, whatever that looks like. And to let that be is just powerful.
So true. And the same is true of you. And Alyssa, and the same is true of you. So as you're growing, it's like you will become exactly what you need to be. And all you need to do is allow and let go. And smile, Nicole. That's totally true. I think Mother Teresa has a quote on that. I can't remember that, unfortunately, right now. She's got a great quote on the smile. She also has another great quote that said, if you really want to learn how to love, well, I added in the really, if you want to learn how to love, you need to learn to forgive.
It's such a new languaging of it.
Yeah.
Alyssa, did you have a thought on that?
Oh, I was just thinking, Nick, with what you were explaining, it was just like an analogy of planting vegetables. That you prepare the soil with like the tribe. You prepared it. You've given it the framework. but it's not up to you to grow the plant. It's up to the plant, and you trust that the plant will grow. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly the same as the tribe.
It's such a beautiful analogy, and to really tend to the garden.
That beautiful. And how can you tend to the garden if your judgments are in the way?
That's right.
If I don't like tomatoes because I think they're ugly, how can I grow to become tomato? I don't. I'm just using.
No, it's really true, and that it's like really breaking through all of the noise so that you get to the essence of the beautiful music of what you're creating here.
Yeah.
It really is. And again, just as just coming back to the rock of this, it's about forgiving yourself for placing judgments and separating yourself from the wisdom, from the giant, from the loving inside. It's the I forgive myself for judging. That's really the key.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, could it be that simple?
It really.
That's really all that's in the way is your judgment. Yeah. The interview that I did this morning, the letting go of the story, the letting go of the judgment, right, is really the only thing that was in the way, that could be in the way for her to create the coaching clients she wants to create. The judgment of it's not okay to be broke or poor or to take money for my services. The judgment of that. That's it. The judgment. Because as soon as you shift that, it shifts. It can't help but shift.
It can't help but shift, and that there is great value in taking small steps over time to really cement, to tend to your garden, right? To really cement in the learnings so that you're affirming the new beliefs, the new stories that are really true about you, or about you and your relationship with money, for example. I did a whole group around self-forgiveness and money, and really helping people to unravel their money stories. And one of the great gift of doing forgiveness work in a program is that it's like step by step by step. How am I tending to my garden? How am I living into these new beliefs so that I direct my focus on what I know to be true and what I'm affirming to be true, rather than these old stories that might want to hold me back.
I love that you hit on small steps. Continue your thought. I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I mean, the small steps, like what is a small step that you've taken that really assists you in anchoring in the learnings from the group we did together?
So I'm going to speak to that as well. This is just a clever thing, maybe, but giants still take small steps. They're just giants. That's right. And so thinking about the small steps that I've taken is one, to create the awareness that I have upset within me, and that school is beginning. And so from that school beginning is, what is it that's causing that within me, and why am I judging that? What is it in me that needs to be addressed? And then forgiving those judgments.
Right.
And
what you just said, that's huge. Like just doing that, like I bet that's been a game changer for you.
Yeah. Like I don't recognize my old life.
Yeah. Really. So each person here, who's listening, and a lovely Alyssa Ann, it's like that you could do that anytime, that you could slow down with that, of like, what is that upset? Oh, my school is coming. And to really work with, what is that part inside trying to show me, to help me awaken to my next level of growth, and opening to that giant that's already inside of me. That's my authentic heart truly living, and the aliveness of that, and choosing life, right, Alyssa Ann? Choosing life.
Man, Alyssa, speaking with you on this is, that choice to live life is a step, right? It's planting that seed. And then from there, stepping in love and trusting that the next thing that you need will come to you. I think of a Bible scripture that the sparrows don't think about what they'll eat tomorrow or what clothes they'll put on. They don't have any concern for that. It just is. And so when you step in love and trust in love, like what you're talking about, you don't worry about how to make a tomato. You just trust that the seed will do what it needs to do for itself. And that kind of feels like the journey for all of us, is that we plant the seed, we follow the intuitions that come, the nutrients that are needed, and we stay in action around that. And we know at the end of it what the fruit will look like. We have an idea of it. But our job is to nourish and nurture the garden, right? That's our job.
And I'm just going to say this may be completely off mark. I'm just going to go for it. So Alyssa, and something to consider, that if you're holding any guilt or shame about your past life or your relationship with your husband, that you have an opportunity to let that go. You're welcome. And bless you and bless your 3 kids.
Oh, thank you very much.
They're lucky to have you as a mom.
Oh, I'm very lucky to have them. And like Nick says, I believe, my children are from me, but yeah, they're not, you know what I mean? They're not an extension. They're their own person. But I'll be signing up for your course, Debbie. Definitely.
Excellent.
Just putting it out there.
I don't know how you could watch this and not sign up. Like,
I need to do this course.
Well, you won't have to quite get up at 3:30, though it will be a little early for you.
Yeah.
I will make it work. It's all good.
So how else can I serve? What else do you both have here for today?
Alyssa, I'm going to turn that to you. What else is coming up for you?
I think a lot of it is not getting stuck on the how am I going to move past something. I think just going into your intuition, trusting, leading with love. I just wish we were taught that in society. Yeah. I wish we were taught that when you put your hands on your heart and you asked yourself a question, that you really tuned into what was a yes and what was a no. Mm. I truly think we do hold the wisdom within us, and I think we would be guided. But we get so stuck in the doing or our stories or the stuff we need to do still that we don't always have that allowance.
Well, what's really neat about what you shared is that that's just another opportunity to learn more about how to live in the wisdom inside, right? It's like each time that you get stuck, it's like, woohoo, like I have another opportunity to practice learning and loving. And in some ways, like to me, it's like that's what we're here for. It's like life already works. It's how you bring loving to it. That's the real key. And it's an adventure and a discovery. And so it's beautiful. And I also just hear you're caring for this planet and really wanting to create an environment where people have space to access the wisdom inside.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a gift. It's a natural talent that you have. It's amazing. It's cool to watch you at work.
Thank you. That's very kind.
It's true. It's true.
Man, I felt some resistance to that. Like, I hear that. Yeah. And thank you. And keep that over there, please. Whereas there's really an opportunity here for you to really hear this, Alyssa, to take it in and receive it.
Yes, I do need to work on that.
That whole feeling of that is kind is like, wrong person.
Yeah, I do need to work on that, Nick. I understand.
Well, what's really neat is that in the group, what you do is so much fun. I mean, Nick, that was perfect. So I'll put you at 20 later too. So what you do in the group, and whether you choose to do it or not is entirely fine. And regardless, my encouragement is to do this, is you choose one thing, as I mentioned, you want to create in your life, and you take action over the 21 days. Now that could be for you learning to receive.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, what is an action that you could take to begin receiving in the beauty and blessing of your life and who you are? You focus on that for 21 days and do some forgiveness. Wow. And that's actually a question. Like, what is one step that you could take if you're willing to entertain this and play with it in our playground, our love giant playground?
Yeah.
And no step is too small. That's the beauty of it.
Mm.
Sometimes the littlest things create the biggest shifts. It's like, what's one thing you could do to receive in your life, or receive in the blessing of you?
Well, I had a call with Nick yesterday about this, how nervous I was about coming on and doing this, and who was I to be on here and all the rest of it. So I am following my fear as far as this is concerned. I know that I need to step up. But as for receiving, I guess just reiterating that I'm worthy to. So right back to the beginning of your story with what you were talking about. Yeah, being unlovable or being all those things.
Well, but one thing that you may consider is look at what happened. You took action to really show up and share yourself, and now you're getting an opportunity to receive it. That could be a great step.
Yes.
It's like you taking action, that you're like, oh, I know I need to do this, and I'm showing up, and then taking a pause and saying, I'm receiving of this, whether that's you acknowledging yourself or having someone acknowledge you, or just pausing to like look around and receive the blessing of it. It's like, this is the step, what we're doing right now.
Yes.
I want to speak a little bit more to this. I think of Iron Man, the end game, right? He's talking to his daughter. And he says, I love you to the end of the universe and back, or whatever he says. And she says, I love you 3,000. And he sits and he pauses for a moment. And he's like, wow, that's a lot. Wow. 3,000, and so when somebody says, thank you, to sit and pause for a minute and think, wow, 3,000, right? Like, wow, that's really nice. And to take it in, is just, I think it's a beautiful thing. I didn't mean to put you on the spot for coaching right now.
I hope I didn't even ask for permission, Alyssa. Yeah. And I am so. But in some ways, I guess you put yourself in it just by doing the interview. And and so it's what's really neat is how, and this is good for everyone, is like, Alyssa Ann, you're demonstrating right now of like how life gives you exactly what you need for your next step. Like you were like, okay, I'm coming on this show and I'm going to be doing this. And it just gave you a next step. You doing this is the step. And it's like life is bringing it to you.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm going to receive of that.
Absolutely.
And one other thing you may do, just as a little tip, and then I'll stop, is I find this helpful for me. I don't know, maybe or may not be for you, is like to pause, and it's like you're integrating it. I'm kinesthetic, like integrate it into your body. And it's like you may just focus on your heart and notice, like, just allow it to, warm up a bit. As you're doing the receiving, it's like just put your focus there. I find that helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm putting I got my hand on my heart. Like it's a reminder that like this is love.
Yes. Yes.
Like this is love. Like this one's love.
I love that, Debbie. It's so powerful, and I absolutely received that. So thank you.
Did you hear that? That clicked in. That was your strength right there.
This is why I love Debbie Roth.
I love it. I'm so happy
that
we did this today. I mean, what an uplifting way to spend a Wednesday morning and for some very, very early morning.
3:30 in the morning. Now 4:30 in the morning.
That's 4:30.
Hopefully you can get some sleep here.
And one thing for people
Yeah.
to consider, like as you're listening to this, and also Nick and Alyssa Ann, and I'll ask myself this question, is like, what's one thing that you learned from today? And what is a simple next step that you can take to ground that in your daily life? It's like, what's one thing that you learned today, and what's a simple step you can take to ground that in your daily life? It's because it's like nothing if not like, let's be practical. It's like, how could you use this to really open into more what you truly want and make peace inside?
Yeah. Oh, I think just the mantra of I forgive myself for judging. For judging myself, for judging others.
It's really huge.
I think for me, it's paying attention to the upset. One simple thing is still to continue to learn to pay attention to that upset, because that's the indication that there's work to be done. Mm-hmm. So it's a simple step would be to be aware that that's present, that I'm upset.
Mm. Awareness is the key. Awareness is the key. I'll post here. There is a 10-minute meditation on awareness that I did, and I have a newsletter, and so I put it out in the newsletter, and I'll post that in the tribe. It's a wonderful, it's a 10-minute meditation that you could do anytime. And it's a way to set yourself up for the day and also be aware of what's going on inside of you, like on all levels, physical, mental, emotional, and that authentic giant inside. So it's pretty cool. So thank you for reminding me of that. I could totally.
Yeah, you're welcome. So as we wrap up, because we're over a little on time, but we're good if you're good.
I'm good. I'm having so much fun.
You have so much wisdom. Like literally, I know, Debbie, we could sit here and we could talk for hours on this. But in the interest of time, if there was one piece of wisdom outside of what you've already shared that you would share with those that are watching, what would that be?
To love yourself.
Mm. You sure you don't have anything more complicated?
It really is. It's like, it's so funny, isn't it? It's like the simplest things can make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
They really can. I'll say one more thing, and that is that I acknowledge each one of us for being here and for carving out this time to tune inside to the giant within, because that's true of everybody on this planet. And the space that we're holding is making a difference. I know it.
I know that too.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Man, my heart's like, feels so good. Yeah. Just so grateful for you. Alyssa, did you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh, I just have so much gratitude for you to be sharing your wisdom, and there's so much in it, and I'm going to have to rewatch it just to go back into it, definitely. But thank you, just thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And gratitude is one of the steps in the group, and one of the things that I love about gratitude is that it opens you up to really see and receive of the good.
Man, there's so much I could go into. I want to.
We'll do another one, Nick.
We'll have to do a follow-up.
Right. We'll do a part 2.
That's right. Forgiveness part 2.
I think we should.
Mary Kelly, totally true.
Yeah,
totally
let me go back to that.
Yeah.
Just as we wrap up here, Giants, just remember that where you feel upset is your opportunity to learn. It's your schooling. And when you can forgive the judgments and acceptance first, accept that it is what it is, and then forgive your judgments around it, it really opens you up to create some amazing things in your life. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to honor you, Debbie, for being on here. Invite those that are on here. So Debbie has her program. Dr. Rachel Smart, February 20th, has her program, which is going to be equally powerful. in a different way. I mean, there's so many facets to becoming a giant.
Totally. And that's the neat thing is, oh, sorry, one other thing.
Yeah, keep going.
This is it. I swear to God, is that it's like it is the facets of a diamond, and like each person finds, like, you check it out and you find like, hey, this is the facet that's like working for me right now.
Yeah.
Like that's really the part of the gift. And so I love what you you have a wonderful way with language.
I just think there's so many ways that we can learn, and so what I learned from you for forgiveness work, Stephen McGee and his work, Steve Hardison and his work. There's so many giants that can teach us, and so many different mentors that we can have, that we go from the space of, is this all there is in my life? That could be at a high level. Mm-hmm. And you're like, that's all there is? Now let me see what else I can create. And these mentors are ready for you. They're ready for you. And so I love that you have what you have. Your 21-day program, whoever attends it is going to get more than their investment out of it. Mm-hmm. And I know the same for Rachel Smart's event too. So I want to plug that too. And so if you haven't read the book yet, The Giants and the Smalls, you need to go grab a copy, because what you've outlined here, what continues to be outlined, is the path for becoming a giant. And there's so many ways to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate you. Thanks for being on the show.
You got it. Thank you so much, Nick and Alyssa Ann. And I thank myself too, because it's important.
I love that. I love that.
Blessings to all.
Yeah. Thank you, Giants. Make it a giant day. We'll see you in the next episode.